All right. So, folks, let me introduce you to James Daniel Jordan, born February 17th, 1964 in Troy, Ohio. Jim was a wrestler growing up in the early 80s. In the late 80s, early 90s, Jim became the assistant coach at Ohio State University's wrestling program and earned a master's in education. This is also where Jim's team doctor sexually abused students and wrestlers. In fact, 2 investigations were conducted in 1996 and 2018, and 4 former wrestlers named Jim Jordan in a sexual abuse lawsuit against the university and accused Jim of turning a blind eye to the team doctor sexually abusing wrestlers. And I quote, "He is absolutely lying if he says he doesn't know what's going on," unquote, said one wrestler. It's worth noting that Jim himself was never accused of sexual misconduct, and he was never arrested or indicted for it. And he says he didn't know anything about the sexual misconduct. It's also worth noting that Jim refused to cooperate with the investigations into the team doctor that found that he sexually abused at least 177 male students. And it's worth noting that that investigation also found that university staff, and I quote, had knowledge of the team doctor's sexual abuse. Now, that team doctor later committed suicide in 2005. Ohio State University paid out $60 million to the victims. And there's also an ongoing investigation, and Jim might actually be compelled to testify. So TBD on that one. But let's go back to the future in 1994. And Jim is now elected.
I think that people should be paid when it comes to, I've actually had a lot of thoughts about that kind of thing when it comes to settlements. I think that people should be paid per week a lump sum, like a sum, not lump sum, but they should be paid for the rest of their lives. I get it. 16 billion, it's out, but I feel like when you get those big, and I think it's not taxable when you get awarded that. So I guess it would equate to the same thing, but I feel like it hurts more when you have to financially account as the institution for that every year. So it's like, it's not just one time where it's like, okay, our accountants they've basically whitewashed the books. They've said, okay, we're going to take a $16 million shortfall here, and now we're going to make it up. No, I wish that it was something that you had to literally look at every year as like a salary. Basically, every person you wrong as an institution becomes a salary that you must now take. It's like you also should probably have to take on their healthcare costs, along with whatever monetary sum you've been awarded from the court, and it should be something you have to pay out like bi-weekly. So it's like a paycheck. So that way you have like a shame roll. Is any of this?
Yeah, I mean,
I like this idea.
Unless
it's worse.
I don't know what a victim would prefer.
Yeah,
so I would say give the victim the option.
Okay, well, I just say that
I think it should be an option that's presented, and you could say, just like the lottery, this is how I want it.
How about that?
If the lottery can do it, why can't
we? Yeah,
why can't we do that for them?
Because I also want, because that way when people come to work for the organization and they get those revenue figures as a finance person or an accountant or whatever, it's like, wow, your shame pall's pretty. Well, you got all these people up on the shame roll. Wow.
That's an interesting way reason to have it. I mean, God, yeah. Even if the dollar amount doesn't matter, but you have these line items that you can't hide, and it's all of the settlements that you've had to make over the years.
It's like, ooh, Jesus! It's like Ohio. It's like there's 300 people.
Well, I mean,
people in this
because then you get into, okay, it's the lump sum or it's that, but when a family member, especially if they're parents or something, guardians, and they go through something traumatic, that gets passed on emotionally to the people that they're raising. And so it would be interesting to force them to leave that to the estate in a sense.
Yeah, you could do like and then like an apportionment. So like depending on how long the person lives, you could make rules to say, all right, well, how much goes to their estate?
Like this was traumatic. You owe them and the next 2 generations.
Yeah.
It's going to take them that long to rebound.
Yeah, I think that's very just, honestly. I think that'd be a very just thing. And then again, at that point now you're like, oh, Ohio, there's 3,000 people. 3,000 people on this roll. I was like, there's a lot of, I was like, how do you, it's 3,000 people. You've got like 300 teachers. You basically, as an accountant, you'd be managing the shame roll more than you would the actual employee, registrar. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, I think that it's something worth bringing up, people. If anyone's got an eye to this or an ear to this, I think it's something worth considering. I think it's definitely makes institutions, I think, will be a lot more careful about who they hire and how long these things go on if they
well,
know.
who they hire, but how much of a blind eye they want to
Well,
turn.
that's what I'm saying. How
Right?
long
How many
they,
complaints are
yeah,
they going to ignore?
exactly. It makes you want to hire almost like an entire new industry to monitor this thing to make sure that you are no longer paying thousands of people
You
and their
basically
relatives.
have to make it, I don't know if this is the right word to use, but in the long term, more profitable to end the abuse because they
You're
brush
right.
it under the rug because they don't want to stop the money coming in.
Exactly. I'm just saying it's eventually it starts hurting your reputation, starts hurting your public relations. The more people you have, the more it comes out. I mean, especially if it's public record and you could just look it up. Someone who's going to apply to a university, I'm going to tell you this right now. If I went to my university and I was doing an application and then I was able to just look them up and see how many people they were currently paying out for wrongful anything, that would definitely influence whether I would attend that university. I think most people would not want to necessarily go to a university that
Or
is
play
paying
that sport.
thousands and thousands of people money because they basically do not look out, uh, for their students or for anyone that is in their world sphere. I think that really starts to. I think that would impact the university's reputation in
Yeah.
a way that you cannot hide from. Because that's the thing. If you do these one-time lump sum payments, it's like it's over. The case, someone could Google the case. You could Google cases from 10 years ago, but it's not. It doesn't feel current. It won't feel like it's something that's ongoing. This is just it's like it's what is it? The chains you forged in life or now follow you. What is it? The Scrooge, Jacob Murphy, the Jacob
Marley,
Murphy line. Yeah, I don't know if it's Murphy, but yeah,
Marley. I think.
Marley. That's it. Yeah, the basically we call it the Jacob Marley initiative, where it's like the change you forged in your inaction, you will now carry with you for generations to come. I think it's perfect. It's a perfect little. I feel like it's just, but you're right. The victim will choose, but I think this is I think it's a just way of doing it.
Wonderful.